say at our age, as you get older, it becomes harder to make friends. There's adult friendships,
and
New York Times,
friendships,
and male specifically, especially post-COVID, like making male friends at 40 and above is like practically impossible now. And so 3 hours of podcast in 30 some hours of driving. We just talked. There's a lot of stories to tell, a lot of things just to riff on, whether it's culture or family or life.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Pickle Me This. Be sure to subscribe, comment, and like so you'll be notified when new episodes drop every Saturday morning. You definitely don't want to miss them. Also, your support helps other pickleball enthusiasts find us too. Everyone has a story. Welcome to another episode of Pickle Me This, and I'm your host, Deirdre. And today we're diving into a story that truly embodies how pickleball can transform an entire family. I'm excited to introduce you to Jed and Stacy, a couple whose pickleball journey began with just one curious player and eventually spread throughout their household. Jed caught the pickleball bug first, playing solo for nearly a year before Stacy finally decided to give it a try. Their son Oliver eventually joined in on the family fun too, and he'll actually be stopping in a little later in our conversation to chat about it. We'll explore how they balance busy careers, including Stacy's pursuit of her PhD, with their shared passion for the courts, and how this sport really has created both challenges and deeper connections in this family. Hello, Jed and Stacy.
Hey.
So excited to have you because I've been pestering you a little bit for a few weeks to come on. So
diligent.
Diligent. I just know that lots of people are going to want to hear your story. So I'm totally getting them on the podcast. You're both so well known,
We did it.
I know. We're here.
Thanks for asking us. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's fun, right? Okay, so let's start off with Jed because he's the first in the family to start playing pickleball. What was going on in your life when you actually discovered it, and how did you start playing?
Let's see. So COVID 2020, I was doing a lot of running and biking because my doctor post-soccer knee injury told me I should only run in a straight line or bike in a straight line. So, during COVID, we were all buying bikes. I bought the last bike, I think, at REI, and was doing a lot of biking. And so that was my exercise for a while. And then 2022, I got COVID, and Stacy and Nora, we had a trip planned to Massachusetts. And Stacy and Nora flew up there. Oliver had COVID, then I had COVID, and so we had to stay back. So they flew up. Oliver and I took a drive up. And when we got there, we had to kind of stay in a different apartment. And so we were kind of like, what would you say?
Ostracized.
We were ostracized. We could only go to meet them outside in a variety of places. And one of those places became a pickleball court because Stacy's brother-in-law, David, who currently lives in California, had been playing for several years and invited us to come play and teach us the game on the Massachusetts pickleball courts. And so I had a background a little bit in tennis and ping pong. And so it sounded very exciting to me. It sounded like a cool sport, kind of a mix between those. It was basically a hybrid, not a big racket, not a tiny paddle. It was somewhere in the middle. And so Oliver and I went out. It was like 98 degrees in Massachusetts, if you can believe it. I had COVID still. I was outside. And it just gave us something to do that week. And I think just starting then, I just kind of got hooked on the court that week.
That's cool. I had no idea that Stacy played your first time also, because I know Stacy started playing later.
I know.
It's just me and Oliver.
Yeah. It's Jed and Oliver.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, and so my brother-in-law, David, he gets all the credit or the blame for turning us into these pickleball addicts that we currently are.
Yeah. So, Jed, how long did you play before Stacy joined you?
I would say
just a year or more.
Solid year.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
What was the family dynamic when Jed started playing a lot before you started playing, Stacy?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was, getting my attention because his frequency of going out to this pickleball court. I mean, it was just, increasing with frequency, and he would disappear for like hours So I'm like, what is going on out there that is so, captivating? And then of course I started hearing about people and people's names and, and then Jed would say, I met Kyle and then his wife, Karen, and Deirdre and Meredith. And, then I just kept hearing about all of these new people. And so I really think after a while, not only was I, wondering like where he was disappearing to, but I was hearing about these people that sounded really amazing. And I think I started to feel a little bit left out.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know what was going on.
FOMO is really powerful, isn't it? FOMO is really powerful, isn't it?
FOMO going on. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you poo-poo it at first when he was playing? You're like, I don't want to play. And then you finally came around to it? Or were you just like not all that interested in the beginning?
I probably was a little bit affected by some of the memes and social media bias, like, because I was a tennis player too. So I played tennis. We both played on our high school tennis teams. So I think I was, you see that those memes going around that tennis players just really think that it looks like a silly sport and that it looks like it's just for the retirees. So that was probably a little bit, I was holding on to some of those wrong stereotypes. And then I got invited to join a sort of ladies league, some friends from my neighborhood. This was summer 2023. And they signed up for a private, like 6-week pickleball clinic. And I thought it'd be a great way to hang out with my friends. And then when I went to the clinic, then that's kind of what kicked it into high gear.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is really fun. And so I don't really think any of the other women that were in that clinic stuck with it.
Really?
And I was really the one that, it really just clicked for me. Same thing. Like it was pretty fast. And I think, in terms of satisfying that enjoyment of tennis, but in a different way.
A different way. Yeah.
I think that clinic increased my confidence to go ahead and go out there. And of course, for a lot of people, it can be very intimidating to show up at open play and put your paddle in the rack. And at first, I think I would only do it with Jed. Like if he was, we'd have to do it together. And then I built up the confidence to go out there by myself.
Right.
That was a discussion with that group too, because several of them wanted to come out. But I think there was that
apprehension.
Yeah, apprehension of like, how does it work? And, we tried to tell them just go out with us or here's how it works. But yeah, I think that made a lot of sense for Stacy to come out with me and we would go out together. And yeah, it was fun.
I just started going out with myself.
One of the first times you showed up when you were early days, I don't know how early. And I remember I was like, my paddle was in with the two of you. And I remember Jed saying, but she's new. I'm like, that's okay. Come on out.
Yeah.
And here you are.
Yeah. So for a while, it was like, having to rely on if Jed was going. And then again, once I developed my own, my confidence and my own relationships. But for a while, it was, oh, you're Jed's wife, right? For a while, that was the association. And then I got to start putting all of the faces to all the names that I had heard about.
Yes.
So, of course, there's a full cast of characters out there to learn about. And now, rather than being, Jed's wife, I got my own thing going on. So,
yes, you do.
Yeah.
Now Jed might be Stacy's husband.
Maybe some days.
Yeah. And I also add, like within that time, there was a lot of things we were doing. Art Explosion. I helped them do the pickleball courts in downtown, doing the art in the kitchen. I joined Pickles and Play at that time as well. So there was a lot of like energy, like within the family of trying to figure out how to work kind of this pickleball thing into our lives, because I became more involved not only on the court, but in other places as well.
Yeah. How did you become more involved in those other places, Jed?
Because I was becoming very involved in just pickleball in general, and it became a big kind of activity in our lives. I'm on the board of Art Explosion, and I was also doing a lot of murals at the time, kind of producing a lot of murals in the area, and worked with the creative director there. And they wanted to do some pickleball courts in downtown because, again, pickleball was kind of becoming a big thing in the early 2020s, I guess. And so we just kind of came up with the idea of putting art in the kitchens of pickleball courts in downtown. And so we hired these artists and had a lot of fun with that. And so
it was so fun to go down there and watch people play and look at the roll sheet and
Yeah.
It was just really wonderful to see people, discovering it that way.
And I had that just because, like, from the FOMO perspective, like, I was not only on the courts, but I was doing a lot of other things. I was going to pickles and play. I was trying to paint these in downtown. So it became more of like one of my media obsessions that I get in from a design or creative perspective, that I think Stacy kind of saw that it was more than just like a sport. It was more of a community thing that we wanted to be more involved with as well.
Absolutely. That's what I love about it the most too, honestly. Like, I mean, I love playing the game, but I love the community aspect for sure. How has the family dynamic changed? How did it change once you both started playing?
I think, Stacy, what you were saying earlier about, like, sometimes, I mean, she's about to go play now, I think. I'm not.
And of course, I
So,
dressed
yeah.
appropriately.
Even though I was asked twice to play with two different groups today, it just didn't work out. And we had this podcast. So I was like, sorry, I can't come out because I've got to record a pickleball podcast. I think it's just like we're constantly trying to find that balance, to be honest. Like, because some days she's playing, some days because I have meetings, I'm not, or vice versa, or sometimes we can sync up. We almost synced up yesterday. I was playing with some guys, and then she came out and said, "Hey, can you play with me a few games?" I said, "Yes." And then a hailstorm came, so we did get to play.
Oh, yeah.
So my point is, like, we put things on the calendar when one of us is playing. And so we balance it by putting it on the calendar, or just, I think, try to tell each other that we're there. We could probably do a better job.
Yeah, it's logistically challenging because then, as parents.
Oh, yes.
Also, there's things to do and laundry to do and dinners to cook.
Yeah, I was laughing. Jed, the other day I was at the courts and you were there, and then you were gone. You were playing with the guys. And then I was leaving, I don't know, like a couple hours later, and I saw you driving in. So I was like, oh, he left and he came back.
Do not tell all of our secrets.
That's why I had to drop my son off at climbing. And then because our daughter had a softball game and Stacy was down there, but that's in Southeast Raleigh. So for me to get down there and back in time to pick him up wasn't going to work. And so I'm like, we've got to waste another hour and a half. And
May as well
go play.
Yeah.
Talked to a few people, and it was just like, it's a reason to stay outside because it was also a beautiful day.
A beautiful day.
I'm sure we both would love to play more,
Yeah.
So managing your responsibilities, trying to figure out, how to overlap versus splitting apart.
Yes.
By splitting apart, then you can cover more of those responsibilities. So it's harder. I mean, I would personally like to be able to play together more. But we're just going to have to retire early or something. I don't know what we need to do.
Yeah. Or the kids grow up.
Yeah, Stacy's working on her PhD now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm teaching and working, and we've got two kids. So it's a lot to balance. But I think about it like we all have hobbies, right? And we all make time for those hobbies. And some people, that's watching sports, and they'll watch a 3-hour game of sports at night. We don't watch a lot of sports, but when we do, it's really fun. But we like playing sports. And so it gives us an activity. A lot of people go to the gym for an hour and a half. So it's like that balance of trying to figure out how to make sure your hobby and your exercise all fit in from from a social, like we talked about, community perspective, but also from like a psychological, like, exercise.
100%. Especially as a parent too, like when you're on the plane, this is like such the analogy always, right? Like, parents put your oxygen mask on first. Even when my kids were younger, I had that in my head all the time. Make sure you fill some of your own cup to make sure you have the energy and the mental capacity and the emotional capacity to take on raising kids.
I just remembered one thing, which is when I started, and Stacy, I think, may have just been getting started, our daughter was at the age that she would play on the playground in North Hills, and so we could go back and forth because she was old enough to play on great playground by herself, but young enough that she would still play on the playground for a little while. And then she'd come to the courts. And so that was one way to balance it. Now the kids are old enough that they're happy to stay at home if they are not going to go out there.
Yep. So that segues nicely into, Stacy, I think you were the one night at league night, you were telling me how your kids were pickleball orphans. Is that the term you use, right?
That's right.
So tell me how you started using that nickname.
there would be, it's so funny, some evenings where we're out on the court. And of course, like I said, there's dinner to be prepared and, homework to be overseen. And that would sometimes create, I would say, a funny sort of tension, because I would say, like, we'll just send him a pizza. We'll be fine. One time, Oliver was up at his climbing gym, and I suggested we just do the teen Uber to just go pick him up and take him home so that we didn't have to stop playing pickleball. So, I mean, that just, again, is that level of, I would say obsession or commitment. Yep. That you sometimes just don't want to interrupt. And so, there's many times where mostly Jed's peeling me off the court and saying, we have got to go. We have got to go.
It's so hard to leave the court sometimes, though, isn't it? It's so hard.
It can be so hard.
Yeah.
So that's just an ongoing thing that we, I think with all families is, balancing your own personal needs and your adult interests and time together as a couple, with also making sure that you have really quality family time. Yep. As for us as a quad, but also individually with the kids. I mean, it's an ongoing thing. Yeah. That's why it was quite nice when Oliver, our son, our almost 16-year-old, showed an interest and a real talent for pickleball, is then we were able to bring in a third. And then we're like, we're really, this recruitment is working great.
It is working great.
We're growing this tribe. And so when Oliver, really saw that he has a real, talent at pickleball, and that just brought in such a cool element. Because then he came to the court, and then it was, that's Jed and Stacy's son. And then he built friendships and he built connections on his own. And people ask about him all the time when he's not out there. Where's Oliver? When's Oliver coming back out? Yep. And also the multi-generational side. It's been so great to see him playing. Yeah. You've played with Oliver. He's a great partner. He's a great partner.
He's a great kid. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Now we should tell people listening, for those that don't know, you have 2 children, right? Oliver's playing. We're actually going to bring him in a little bit to chat. Tell us about your daughter. What are her thoughts on pickleball?
She is willing to pick up a paddle and try. Like when we've been at family events and there's been opportunities, she's a good sport. I mean, I think a paddle sport is not for her. So it doesn't, resonate the same way it does for us, but she's always been a good sport. And when we're like, we need a fourth, Nora, please. But she's got her own thing going on. She's, really committed to softball. She's got softball practice tonight. So I think it's great that she has her own, thing that is hers. And she seems pretty patient and not really annoyed that the 3 of us would go off and play, because she has so many of her own independent interests and hobbies, and always ways to keep herself busy.
We watch a lot of pickleball too. We've started watching it a lot more at home. It'll be on the weekends, and Nora will kind of ask, she'll inquire like, oh, who's playing or this, and she'll watch a little bit, which does create, somewhat of a bonding situation around it. We watch hockey games together with her. We watch pickleball with her, so there is like that part that we can kind of, she's the fourth in that case. Like she knows the least, but she enjoys it a lot too, is what I've started to notice. And that's a newer thing, which is really cool. That she has that interest too, and she can have the interest but doesn't necessarily have to play.
Yeah.
That said, Stacy just sent me a text a few days ago about a summer pickleball camp that we might send Nora to, just to see if she likes it for a week. But,
How does Nora feel about that?
We will.
We'll see what she thinks.
Maybe I could send my 20-year-olds to that camp with her. I wish my kids would play. They've come out to play a few times, my youngest the most, but it just hasn't really stuck for them either.
Yeah.
But I still do a lot of other stuff with them. Like we're all a big hockey family, as you know, and we do a bunch of other stuff too. So
Nora's in middle school too, so middle school is a very taxing time for
Oh yeah.
kids. And so I think at the end of the day, she likes to come home. She's in the next room right now, like working on her art and chilling. So she likes to kind of decompress. And one of ours is go out play pickleball, and she's like,
bye.
Yeah, and she might appreciate that. She's like, bye-bye.
Walk the show, walk the dog, play some music, whatever it may be, she's doing at home.
Yeah. Stacy, you have a full-time job, PhD, raising children, and pickleball. Like, how do you do it all? Day by day?
I'm with day by day. It's I don't know. Sometimes I think about pickleball as a absolute like a coping mechanism that's helping me. At the same time, it can be an escape mechanism, right? So I can be like, I'll just ignore everything and all my responsibilities and just focus on that ball, because everything else can fade away.
Yeah.
You can't really think about higher order tasks and worries and troubles when you're on the court and you're focused on playing.
That's
so
true.
It can be, again, a coping mechanism and an escape. But I know it's just so important to move my body, get out in the sunshine, be around other people, feel good about myself. And it's just part of the way of managing the stress. I mean, it is, of course, all of that is stress, but with that is growth, right? So it has good sides and bad sides, but I'd say I'm constantly working to manage, to juggle. Trying to figure out where things can slot in. Trying to make sure my school isn't ignored, my kids aren't ignored, Jed isn't ignored. And some weeks it works out great. And some weeks, Friday comes by and I haven't played any pickleball and I'm really grumpy. Or I haven't written anything for my dissertation and I'm really, stressed out. So it's a continuous work in progress. I got really excited because on where I work on campus at NC State, they have some pop-up pickleball on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, and it's like during the lunch hour. And so I'm like, well, that's something that like in terms of having an opportunity right around the corner to get that, need met during the workday. Again, just trying to figure out how to sort of blend it together. So that's a good lunch hour thing to do. So again, it's just a sort of a constant evolving, formula to try to figure out how to manage it. And sometimes I balance things really well, and sometimes things are pretty unbalanced.
Yeah. Well, I mean, rightfully so. I think it has such great mental health benefits, though. Just like you said, for the exact reasons, but also I feel like we're really privileged to play on the courts we play on outside at North Hills. They're so pretty, like all the trees around it. Because I've been to other courts in other states, and they're just a big open area with sun beating on you.
By the woods, and you hear the birds, and the clouds are rolling by, or the hail, like happened the other day. We see hawks, and people will stop, and we marvel at the birds. I mean, it really is really beautiful out there, and in terms of just boosting your spirit, it's pretty impactful.
Yeah.
The North Hills courts are probably some of the nicest ones that I've played on. I have a list now. I've played in 10 states, and and they're actually some of the nicest. I played in Amarillo, Texas 2 weeks ago, and once in Santa Fe, and both of those courts were exactly what you're saying, teacher, which is like there's a park there, and these courts are just part of this open park, right? And, that said, a dirt tornado did come through when we were playing with the Bigger Parks in Santa Fe, which is pretty cool.
So what's it like actually playing on the courts together as a married couple, like partners or against the courts?
Yeah, well, I'll say, I mean, I'm always trying to play with Jed. Jed's a good partner. People like to play with Jed. And I'm trying to build up my skills so I can be a really great partner on the court for him too. I took lessons with Mike Cahill, who's wonderful. Shout out for Mike. And a big part of that was, again, to bring up my skill level so that I could, hold my own, hold my side of the court. So I really enjoy very much playing with Jed. I never get to play enough with him. I would say in terms of where we definitely have a struggle is, like competitive tournament play is really hard. And that's for lots of people who play mixed doubles. Because I'm not at his level, I will be the one that gets picked on and targeted. And that is a real point of contention for Jed, because he does not just like pick on the woman on the other side of the court. He goes for the good shot, right? So when I'm being targeted and picked on, it creates a lot of stress. I would say one of our first tournaments, we won a medal. So that was pretty great.
Yeah, we won a medal.
Yeah.
It was really fun. It was a fun weekend at Chapel Hill.
We played like 8 hours straight. It was wonderful.
Yeah, we spent the night in a hotel because the tournament was so early in the morning at 8 a.m. that we had to get up and,
and doing that together and encouraging each other and learning like what each of us needs.
Yeah.
I need a little more of the verbal encouragement when he needs to focus. He also needs to not be expected to be doling out, the verbal encouragement. So figuring out how we're to meet in the middle and talking about it and discussing like what is helpful to each other. I mean, that's been a form of like, sort of like relationship discovery and compromise.
We had a second tournament after that we played in Durham. I played with Oliver that weekend and I played with Stacy, and both of them got targeted. And it was just frustrating because it's like, this is just a casual tournament, like.
It wasn't it was
it was just
a
really,
fundraiser.
It was a fundraiser. These people were taking it so seriously that they were targeting like a specific player to win this thing, but like egregiously. Like it wasn't just like casually targeting. And it was extremely frustrating because I didn't get to play much, like it was more like I came to pay money and play in this tournament. And so it just made me think like what are tournaments about? Like,
had lots of conversations about how we want to be involved or not want to be involved.
Yeah. And so it was, that was a challenging thing. And I think I don't think we've played a tournament since. And that, but like at the same time, it's like, do we need to play tournaments to actually play together? Or we just try to miss hailstorms and play together?
Or just like in how you shift your attitude. Like one idea I had was just playing tournaments where it is for a cause, like a good cause. Your money, then that you've done that. And also by getting the experience dealing with being targeted, I'll get better, so I'm definitely trying to get better and drilling and being able to hold my own so that I can demonstrate that it's not going to work. I will also say I played in that tournament with a friend of mine, Karen, and knowing that probably we're not going to be on the podium. I knew that going in. I went to Target and got us little trophies. The trophy said, I think it said, "Congratulations on adulting," and I just covered up the adulting part and put some tape and said, "Congratulations on pickleball."
Love it.
After we were done, I presented us with our own trophies. And so a part of it is your attitude.
It is your attitude.
It's a big part of it. And being able to sort of let that go and walk away and take something from it.
What about rec play?
Good. Lately, we've been playing together well. And I think maybe that's our attitude has just shifted of how we play together and like what we do during the games and what we expect from the games, and that it's fun and, casual, and that's what it's about. It's about spending time together. I've got things to work on, I'm sure, in those games and, being more vocal and all of that. And
we all do.
Thanks for therapy session, teacher. And so I think it's getting better and it'll continue to evolve. This is the cool thing about the sports. Like it's not something like football where you're like at 28, you're done playing. Right. And so, we will continue to play as long as we're both healthy and able to run around.
Right.
So it is something.
Hey, if we have to show up like some of our friends at North Hills with braces on both elbows and both knees.
I know.
I see walk out there, they look like, part bionic. And they're out there still having a good time.
I know. I'm talking to Wild Willie, interviewing him for the podcast too. And I didn't realize he's 80 and a half. He included the half. And I'm like, wow, that's what I aspire to do. Yeah. I'm sure like all of you, like you too, right? Like I would love to be playing pickleball on the courts at 80.
And Reggie and
all of them.
And all of them. I mean, there's just so many people that are so inspirational. If I could play half as good as Tracy, I would be so happy.
I know.
I would say that the playing on the court, it was more of a work in progress playing with Oliver because, it's a mom-son, right? So I would say he and I had more post-game conversations about like how to support each other. And
how'd that go?
He really, I mean, I think maybe I had more of the complaints, feeling like maybe like the unsolicited feedback or criticism, because part of it was I wanted to make sure when also he went out and played with other people that he was a really gracious, good partner.
Yes.
So it's also sort of like training him up. Like you're going to be out there and you're going to sometimes play with people where you're the weaker player and sometimes you're the better player, and here's how to be a gracious person when you're out there at open play where you're just going to get what you're going to get. So we talked a lot about it. We talked about how to deliver feedback, even how to ask, I noticed something, would you like a pointer? versus unsolicited advice. I think, Deirdre, I don't know if it's true that it's a complete gendered thing, but there's a lot of unsolicited advice that comes
from we've spoken about this.
Yes, that often, not really keen, and like especially when that person has a lot to work on their game, and they want to deliver some unsolicited advice my way. So that can be a real tricky area. So I've worked with Oliver, and now I think we're in a really very positive place where he and I could play, and it's pretty neat, I think, for a mom and a son to be able to go out there as partners and have a great time.
I love it. It's great family bonding, right?
But he also wants to break off and then go play with.
And that's okay.
Well, that's great, So we won't stick together the whole time.
Yeah.
Just like Jed and I won't stick together the whole time. And often, I'm looking for that great ladies game, and that's a different kind of dynamic.
Yes,
it
totally is
for that.
Yeah. So people always love to hear stories about, especially like times you failed, embarrassing stories. What do you got? Sure.
Well, of course, I've done the thing you're never supposed to do, which is run backwards to try to get a lob. And all you open play people need to just chill out on the lobs.
Yes, too many, right?
Many lobs. People can get hurt. Anyway, a couple of lobs, that's fine. But those people that just lob every single shot. So, and I was running backwards and, slipped and fell. And I fell backwards. And I was able to catch myself before my head hit the concrete. So that's
good.
Those moments, you're around people that are generally just so kind and supportive and run over and make sure you're okay. So, and of course, nobody likes to ever get pickled. That's never fun. So there's been plenty of times where I was like, oh, okay. Well, that just happened.
Yes. Yes.
Not as much these days. But it will still happen sometimes.
It happened to me yesterday.
You got
I just got pickled this week too. I haven't got pickled in a while. Yeah.
And we beat them 11-2 the next game. Yeah, so it's just. I think that's a different topic, but I feel like I try to be like Men in Black or something like that, where you just erase everything that just happened on the court from like a score perspective. But it's pretty copacetic, and people are chill and they're fine, like that was out or whatever, and you move on to the next point, because in the grand scheme of things, it's pickleball. It doesn't matter.
I'm the same as you when you just said you don't want to let your partner down, even in rec play. Then I start like putting more pressure on myself. I'm like, I don't really care so much, but I don't know what it is. I don't want to let that person down.
There's something kind of great about that. There's something great that you're wanting to do your part, and you want to be a good partner, and it translates into work and your personal life. Like you want to make sure you're showing up. So, that's what you want to show up, and you want to do what you can do. I'm not going to turn into a 5-0 player, but I want to really, really try. And I really appreciate it when I'm with people who are trying, because you'll be with people who don't try or who give up.
No, totally.
I will always try to the very end, even if it is 10-0. I'm like, maybe we can.
Oh, me too. I'm like 1 point at a time.
Maybe we can turn it around. Yeah.
All right. Now you both looked at each other and when you said there's been trying times in league or competition, and
the one that comes to mind recently, there was a men's league I was in, and it's the MLP format. So there's like best out of 6 games. And so if you're tied 3-3, you go into a singles. It's called a Dream Breaker. In Dream Breaker, each singles player plays 4 points, and you switch to the next player on your team. You go to 21. It's rally scoring, so every point counts. Anyway, I'm building this up as like, in this case, it was 3-3. We went to a Dream Breaker. There's a lot of pressure. I think 2 really solid teams, obviously. We were down 19-17.
Ooh, close.
I was up against another guy. The previous time he and I played in this Dream Breaker early in the points, he had beaten me 4-0. And I then won 3 straight points from him.
Ooh.
And so it was 20-19. And so I won 3 straight. And you keep the serve when you're doing it. And so it was 20-19, match point. I served it. He called it out. And all hell broke loose. Like several of his teammates were like, I was like, that's your call, but that was not out. So tensions rose. Long story short, our next player came up and lost 2 straight. So we lost 22-20. And then it kept going afterwards. There was this back and forth. And then
Oh,
finally, like, I think I came to him. I was like, dude, it's just pickleball. It's
just
no big
pickleball.
deal. Like, I understand because he kept going and and then he like afterwards later came back to me. We've played a few times in tournaments and leagues since, and we've been cool. He's a nice guy. But it's like those situations like that create like a little rivalry with each other, right? You always want to beat each other. But I think I kind of mark it up to it was just a really tense situation because it was 3-3. And literally 20-19, I'd taken 3 from him after he had beat me. It's like all the kind of markings.
The drama.
Yeah, like the 9th inning, bases loaded kind of situation. You don't do it, you lose. It's embarrassing, whatever, right? And so, yeah, that was really stressful and heated. And that's one of the few times there's been a few here and there otherwise, but that one was the most dramatic because there was more people involved. There was 4 people on each
And
team.
everybody's watching those dream breakers.
Exactly.
Talking to each other.
Exactly. And
Everybody's watching.
I even like afterwards, like I was recording the matches and I even like slowed it down.
Watch the ball, hit the line.
And it was not egregiously in or out. Like it was one of those like it could have gone either way, but because he's standing behind it in singles and he's the only person to call something like that out is like just play it. Let's keep playing. Because I said, why don't we just replay the point?
Yeah, replay it.
It was a serve. We never even got
It's
to
always
play
the same thing. Just
replay it.
Yeah.
No, I was like, okay, we're good. So anyway,
some people really don't like to lose.
I don't like to lose.
It's great to play with friends.
Play fair. Yeah, playing with friends.
I play with friends a lot mostly, and that just seems to go the best, right? Because
it does.
There's some trust.
And then you laugh, you have fun, you make fun of each other, like in a good way, in a fun way.
It's the best.
And that's when the league and the tournaments thing becomes like this like pressure, and it's kind of like maybe there's some testosterone obviously involved from a male perspective. It just becomes a lot more tense. And
it happens in the women's side too, Jed. I can't even say it's testosterone. I've seen it on our side.
We've had a few moments. Right?
We've had a few moments.
Which is funny because it's the most casual sport in the world, but then it becomes the most tense sport in the world. There's not a lot of other sports that are this way in like a rec play.
Yeah, I've had a few post-league drinks at the bar.
Yeah.
Process what just happened and have a martini.
Totally. All right, let's grab Oliver.
Okay.
All right, Oliver, thanks for joining us. We're excited to have you. We have a few questions for you, especially because your parents started playing before you. So my first question is, what was it like seeing your parents play while you were not playing yet? What did you think of them being so obsessed with the sport?
Well, it was cool because I was rock climbing at the time. So it's cool to see both my parents becoming more physical, especially because, I did a sport. So my family became more sports oriented in general, which I enjoyed.
Oh, nice. So what made you finally decide to join them and start playing?
Well, to be honest, they were bugging me all the time. You want to come play? Yeah, exactly. And eventually I folded and realized it was really fun. And started talking to the people there, established a community, and helped me come out multiple times and have fun.
Oh, that's good.
You record in Massachusetts the first time, which is cool. And then there's some like other moments where he and I played a tournament Boys and Girls Club, and we did really well together. So we had these like he was like hopscotching or like lily pad jumping, and then he and I went this really memorable moment for when we went to Charlotte to the PPA. And saw them, and then on the way back Oliver was like, I want to play like now. And so I think he kind of got a little bit of the bug there too, and so we drove directly from Charlotte to the North Hills courts and played there as well. And so he has a little bit more time in the summer, and so I think the bugging and the kind of harassing during the summer and more flexibility. Your climbing schedule is a little looser. There's less competitions in the summer.
Right.
So, yeah.
When you first started playing, did you play with your parents exclusively? The reason I asked this question is when my youngest daughter came to play, she would like look at me literally when we put paddles in the rack, and she'd be like, "Do not make me play with anyone else." She was afraid to.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like Jed said, initially I started with family. My Uncle David, he got my dad into pickleball. So that's how we all started playing.
What made you more comfortable to start playing with other people? Was it like the sideline conversations first when you started getting to know people, then you were more willing to jump in with them and play?
Well, I mostly just got mixed in with people just
It happens.
up. Especially when my dad wanted to play with his friends, I would play with just random people, and I got to know people.
Yeah, when I go out, people are like, "Where's Oliver? I haven't seen Oliver." Like, what? Get Oliver back out here.
Oliver, what do you think about hanging out with like people way older than you, like even people your parents' ages?
Really fun because I'd say I'm pretty mature, and I enjoy having like mature conversations and being around more mature people because people my age can be a lot sometimes. So it's not from all the franticness of teenagers in high school.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
We went with some friends to a house that had a pickleball court for an evening recently, and Oliver mixed right in with all of them because partly he knew them, but I think he's like he's saying he's really mature and his level of play is solid enough that he can play and do really well against players that have been playing as long, if not longer, than him. And so he did a really good job of kind of.
He's like one of those also intuitive players. He just in terms of shot selection and strategy, he just gets it.
Yeah.
So he's really good.
Oliver, any fun stories to share, either like with playing with your parents specifically or against your parents on the other side of the court?
No stories specifically, but often playing against them is very fun because I know them both very well. So I can often predict what they're going to do. And
you mean exploit our weakness?
Exploit your weakness. It's fun.
How satisfying is it to get a point against your parents?
Pretty satisfying because they're both really good. They go out a lot more often than me and are a lot better at pickleball. So it's an underdog to get a point sometimes.
It's true. I forget who I was playing. I was playing with somebody younger as a partner recently, and we were playing against her parent. I can't remember who it was. And then they won the point. I'm like, I said the same thing. I'm like, how satisfying? And they're like, very satisfying.
Yeah.
And there's a good amount of families that you see out there. You see Creighton, is your age, and his dad, and
Creighton's out there all the time too. Yeah,
there a lot, and you see a lot of different families coming in.
Yep. So, final question for you, Oliver: how do you think the bond between your family has strengthened playing the sport together?
Well, pickleball is a sport that all of us enjoy. Well, at least us three enjoy. So it's very fun to all three go out and do something we all enjoy. Because previously we would all go on like outings that I didn't particularly enjoy.
Go hiking.
Hiking?
Hiking?
Not that I don't like hiking. I just enjoy pickleball more. It's fun to do something that we all enjoy together as a family.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, a little more rigorous. He like he said, he's a climber and he's great at climbing and to the physicality and everything. So we get that.
The adrenaline, you can get some good adrenaline out there.
Right.
Oh, for sure. Well, thanks, Oliver. Thanks for joining. We'll have two final questions for your parents, and then I'll give your parents back to you also.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Oliver. What a good guy.
Yeah. Oh, he's so cute. All right, so a couple of wrap-up questions. What pickleball goals do you have either individually or as a family going forward?
Friends that we're working on. Other converts that I would really love to bring to the dark side. But that is a story for another day.
Yeah.
That being a goal. Is that
a goal?
Yeah. We got an agreement recently that they would play. It's some tennis friends.
Tennis friends. Yeah.
Really good friends and tennis friends. I don't have a goal of playing in all 50 states, but I'm documenting how many states I've played.
I like that goal.
And I wish I've documented most of the courts from a photograph perspective. I don't know what the goal is.
No, I like that. I like that goal.
As many as possible states,
Yeah.
On my road trip, I literally just stopped off and Amarillo and hit around for a little while so I could check it off, right?
It's funny because we would do that with disc golf courses.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of now, instead of like looking at these locations for disc golf courses, it's looking at locations that have great pickleball courts.
Yep.
Yeah, when we go on vacation, there's always that. Where is one? I mean, we might be going to Oregon this summer, so got to check that off, and a variety of other places. It's a fun little goal to find it because there's there's always that culture there. There's that fun quirkiness. You learn more about the sport. You learn about the community by jumping
different personalities at different courts in different states, and
and you learn about the city, just like how it's structured. Like you were saying, some cities have nice courts, some don't, and how they value this sport, right?
Even how they run open play. I played with a friend in Tampa, and it's completely different open play. Like there's no paddle racks. You just put your paddles against certain courts, and you're like waiting for a court, and then some are king of the court, and I don't know. I'm like, where do I go?
At its own, like you lay them on the side, and then there are literally 4 courts, one of which was a challenge court, the other 3 were not. Those 3 had their own, but there was no rack, and it was in the middle. It was on the harbor, on the East River. It was crazy, and it was really cool. So I think goal in general was to like play the sport as long as we were really enjoying it, and having fun, and not necessarily converting people, but like continuing to play and like enjoying it with other people, whether it's family or what. We've got a portable net that we took on vacation several years ago and set up an ad hoc court, in this kind of pavilion that we were vacationing on, and we got a lot of people, like cousins and people, just playing a few games in the dark, it was really fun. So that's kind of a cool goal, just to keep playing.
You talked about bringing other friends into pickleball to start playing with you, but what happens the other side too. Like you meet people at pickleball to become good friends. So my final question for you is, how has the pickleball community affected your life?
I think a lot of our friends now are pickleball people, going to hockey games with them. We're spending a night
driving cross country,
going to concerts, we're going to birthday parties. I mean, we've got a long list of things that we've done with people that are pickleball friends because we share that interest, and we find that we share other interests with them as well. So
I think, it's been, I would say, massively enriching, I would say, and just met some incredible people that I wouldn't have happened otherwise, because, again, where you live in your neighborhood, sometimes you get to know the people in your neighborhood or the friends of your kids at the schools, or you have a certain footprint. And so this just, pulls you into a different footprint around this common interest / obsession. And we've just really met some of the most wonderful people and built meaningful friendships that are durable.
Yeah. And I mean, I say at our age, as you get older, it becomes harder to make friends. There's like 30 million podcasts about it. I've downloaded one yesterday, right? Adult friendships,
and
New York Times,
friendships,
and male specifically, especially post-COVID, like making male friends at 40 and above is like practically impossible now, and so I think this has given me personally an outlet to like communicate with friends. You just had John Irby on, and John and I talk constantly about whatever, right? Like we're texting about things, and several other people, we talk about movies or music, and and there's jokes about things going on or things that are being shared, sports, other sports that we enjoy together, not just Irby, but other guys. And it becomes a really cool kind of community. You have a kind of core thing that you share, and then all those kind of peripheral interests kind of get baked into it. I have friends that I've been friends with for 20 some years, and our core is like we went to college together or something, but that core fades, right? And so therefore you have to find new interest to kind of build up and shore that kind of interest up. Whereas pickleball, you've got this core, and that core is strong. As long as you keep playing with those people, you can kind of build out the interest from there. And I think I really love that.
Like one final thing to mention, I think, because I like the way you told me this story the other night at the courts. You recently joined a fellow pickleballer for a cross-country vacation trip. Tell us like quickly how like that came about and like what ended up happening the trip out?
His name's Britt Carter. Wife Patty. We've become good friends with them. We've sang karaoke with them. We've, Kyle and Karen, and there's a whole crew, and some of the other people, Tracy and that crew. And Britt and I both have Alamo Draft House. We have like what do you call them, like memberships where you can see as many movies as you want. So we started seeing movies together a while back, and then one night he was talking about he's from the Santa Fe area of New Mexico, and was saying how they recently had this new house out there, then they're thinking about what's next for them, and he was going to drive out there, and just asked if I wanted to come on the trip. And I was like, oh yeah, I love cross country trips. And so yeah, I literally just jumped in the car, and he was driving with his 2 dogs, and we took 3 days straight, 8 to 10 hours a day, driving straight to Santa Fe, New Mexico, stopping twice, 2 nights. And then we spent 3 or 4 days out there, basically in the desert, going on hikes and watching more movies and just hanging out. And it was great. And then I flew home, and his wife, Patty, joined him, so it was really cool. And it was kind of a really good way to learn more about someone and build more friendship.
I think the part that stood out for me the most was you said you had planned all these podcasts and whatever for the car ride out because it was so many hours, but you ended up not even listening. You ended up talking the whole time.
3 hours of podcast in 30 some hours of driving. Yeah. So maybe 4 hours podcast. Yeah. 4 podcasts, I think, we listened to no music. We just talked. It was really cool. There's a lot of stories to tell. A lot of things just to riff on, whether it's culture or family or life. It was really cool. It was really kind of bonding experience, and just fun. It's cool to see the country and kind of say, like, dissect what's going on in America from here to Santa Fe.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the end, like I feel like everybody needs like friends, and like you said, making friends as adults is harder. And I love that story, like of driving across country and you just spoke for hours. Like that's great. So
yep, it was great. Punk rock karaoke and all. Yep, it was great.
All right, you two, thank you so much for joining. Stacy, you can go play.
All right, I gotta get out of here. I got a reservation.
I gotta take care of the kids.
Hey!
All right, thank you both.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next time when a new episode drops each Saturday. If you like this episode, be sure to leave us a like, and we'll see you out on the courts. Bye.